Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Welcome. We'll go ahead and give everybody just a minute to arrive, and then we'll go ahead and get started. We've got a lot to cover today. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us. Just as a quick reminder to you guys, if you haven't joined us before, please put all questions for the panelists in the Q&A, and any questions for myself, if you need some technical assistance, you can go ahead and put those for me in the chat. Give everybody just one more minute to join us today. All righty. I will go ahead and hand it over to Sunita to get us started.
Thank you, Bree. Good morning, everyone. I know people are still joining us. It's only just 10:30. If you have any questions, please place them in the Q&A portion, and then we will be able to answer it throughout the webinar. So I'm just going to give it another minute, let people in, because we're still getting some people joining us. So I want to make sure everybody gets this information because there is a lot of it. Okay, looks like we're holding pretty steady. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again today for our 84th session at ASKSBDC. Disaster relief loan updates today, PPP, COVID, EIDL, and more. I should have updated that. There's always more. We were just saying there's so much going on right now with different grants and loans that I'm sure everybody's heads are swimming. So we're going to try and help you with getting all this information straight right now. So next, please. Let's go into housekeeping and disclaimers. So this webinar is going to be recorded and you can find it at AskSBDC.com, usually later on today or the next day. We also have it, I believe, on YouTube too. So if you have any questions, can you please place them in the Q&A and not in the chat? The chat is where you can put your items if you have any tech issues. Or any information that you want us to share as well. I've noticed that people have been doing that, and that's been some great help. Please wait until we go through each section, as we may answer your questions during the presentation, because we do have a lot of information. Please let us know before your question or in the question if this is in regards to PPP or EIDL or anything other. That'll just help us to answer the questions correctly. If you need tech assistance, please request them in the chat. Things are changing all the time. This information was valid as of last night or this morning as well. We've been changing it. It's one of those things that we can't just create one deck and then use that deck throughout the year. This deck changes a lot. Some information does remain the same, but we do add to it. So please use these decks accordingly. It may change during the webinar or after the webinar, but we will have another webinar with updates this month as well. Next, please. So this is brought to you by the Northern California SBDC Finance Center. We are supported by the SBA and also by the state of California. That's how we are able to provide you no-cost advising, training, and workshops just like this. The Finance Center consists of myself, Sunita Maharaj. I am the director. Steve Roth is also here today, lending specialist, and he's going to answer a lot of these questions within the chat. And then we have a total of 15 advisors, lending specialists. We specialize in getting loans for small businesses. That's what we do here at the Finance Center. And we thank you so much for joining us. Next, please. The SBDC Northern California footprint. I know we haven't gone over this in the past. I believe we did way back when, probably like the 12th session, but we do cover 36 counties. We have 18 full service centers, 6 satellite centers, 35 outreach locations, 2 tech programs, 6 affiliates, and we have a workforce of over 500 individuals. So that way we are able to help you in Northern California. We have one of, I believe, the largest footprint for the SBDC, and we are able to help many people every single day. Next, please. This is how you can reach us. You can get started with the Finance Center right here, financesimplify.com. Start. To find your local center, you can go to NorCalSBDC.org. And this information will also be located in the chat for you. Next, please. CaseForce is also here with us today, and this is their disclaimer. So the office hours are intended as a resource for small businesses with fewer than 25 employees and nonprofits to learn information about various resources, legal issues relevant to COVID-19. They are not intended to offer legal advice. The leaders of the office hours are not able to represent any participants as their attorneys. The session is intended to address related issues to the pandemic. Panelists are not able to comment on general non-pandemic related issues. Next, please. And today with CaseForce, we have Fredo Silva here today, a partner at Morrison & Forster. We also have Elise Hicks here. I'm not sure if she's joined us yet, but she is she is an attorney at the United Policyholders. She covers insurance, and Fredo covers general corporate law. So if you have those questions, can you please place them in the chat, but please remember they have to be COVID related issues. You can also visit the website for more information. This is the link here, and Bree can put the link also in the chat, so that way you can get the information as well with their resources and get a hold of them as well. Next, please. Our agenda today is going to change around just a little bit. Our SBA team is going to give their updates, and then we're going to go over what's new, what's changed. California Relief Grant. We're going to go over the California, not the SBA or the federal restaurant grant, but the California Restaurant Foundation Resilience Fund grant. The PPP, the Idle and Target Advance, SBA debt relief, the SVOG, employee retention credit, upcoming webinars, and then the CaseForce attorneys are here throughout, but we present them again towards the end, and Q&A, of course, throughout. Next, please. SBA support. So Carrie Allenwood is here today. She is the Deputy District Director, and she is going to be providing us with updates for any SBA programs. Carrie, we'll hand it off to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sunita, for allowing me to rearrange your schedule a little bit today. This week is quite busy for us here at the SBA, but I did want to make sure I was able to share some information with your participants. I'm going to go through our loan programs and then a couple new programs as well. So first of all, so far on the PPP loans, we have, as of late April 11th, 4,412 loans for $232 billion that were made by over 5,200 lenders. And that's for the 2021 loans alone. If you want to look at this whole program during the duration, there have been over 9 million loans made for $755 billion by 5,400 lenders. So this Paycheck Protection Program has done very great work with our lending partners. They've been working 7 days a week, some of them getting these things out for their small businesses. So I really have to commend them for all the work they've done to support our economy here in the Sacramento area. In terms of our EIDL program, I don't have any new loan totals for you, but I do have a couple points of interest. First of all, on as of April 7th, we have approved the amount of the EIDL to increase from $150,000 up to $500,000. So what will happen for those of you that have applied in the past is SBA is going to reach out to you with an email letting you know that there is additional funds available to you if you qualify for up to $500,000. So you will not need to come in to us until you receive that email to get those additional funds. So please be looking for those in the next couple of weeks. You will be eligible for that additional amount as we move through the program. And those loans are available for small businesses now through the end of the year. So please do look in your email account for that, look in your spam or whatever other filter you may have for that email from SBA. Now, I do want to say that, as always, unfortunately, we have the bad guys out there, for lack of a better word, that have already figured out ways to try and scam small businesses because we've announced this increase of funds available. So please look closely at any emails you receive and make sure that they are coming from sba.gov. Unfortunately, I found out about one a couple days ago that it had a .gov ending, had an incorrect spelling, and an incorrect 800 number. So please review those very, very carefully so that you do not get taken advantage of. I am going to put in the chat the number that you can call if you suspect fraud on this program so that you can make sure that we're alerted of it. You can also send us an email here at the Sacramento District Office and we will see what we can do for you there as well. So please, again, be very cautious when responding to those emails. Typically, the SBA is going to ask you for additional financial information, not your social security number or your EIN or your TIN. So please do review that carefully. In regard to the EIDL advance, those loans are by request only from SBA. So those aren't available to apply for if you have not had one before. And they were for up to $10,000. And previously you received $1,000 per employee. We are now working with those recipients to get the additional funds to them up to that $10,000. So again, look in your spam or whatever filter you have there on your email. Now, the latest news we have is on our SVOG grant, the Shuttered venue. We opened that program last Thursday, and unfortunately, our platform had a little bit of technical difficulties, so we had to close that down. Please keep eyes on our sba.gov website. You will be still able to register. That program is going to open up soon. I don't know exactly when. We're working out those kinks on that portal, but do keep your eyes tuned to sba.gov. And you can find out more information there about the SVOG program. In addition to the Restaurant Relief Fund, that program has not started yet. We will be putting information at sba.gov again for you when we have that information available to answer those questions and let you know how to apply. That is another direct application through SBA. This is not with our lending partners, so continue to go to that sba.gov website so you can get that additional information. The other thing I'd like to encourage you is we've learned that there are more calls coming into our office about small businesses wanting to start up on our 7A program. Right now, it has a 90% guarantee for your lenders, which is very good for them and very good for you. It allows them to open that credit box a little bit more for you. So if you're looking to expand or grow your business or even purchase a business or start a new business, please reach out to your lender about the 7A program. With the 90% guarantee through the end of the year, your application fees for the SBA portion of that loan will be covered, as well as your first 3 months payment on that loan program. So please do, if you're in that situation, take a look at that information, reach out to your business banker and they can give you some assistance with that. With that, Sunita, I'd like to turn it back to you and thank you very much for letting me adjust your schedule.
Not a problem, Carrie. Thank you so much for that great information. I am going to hand it off to Steve now to what's new.
Here we go. Better when I unmute myself. So what's new? Some of it Carrie talked about. The big news is that the Ppp program, the payroll protection program, has been extended. It's now going to be open until May 31st of this year. This is for both first and second draw PPP loans. As long as the loan has been sent to the lender and accepted as of May 31st, it can be open and funded until June 30th of this year. So you have to get your applications in over basically the next 6 weeks. Obviously, at some point, funding will run out. As Carrie pointed out, been a very successful program with billions of dollars lent to millions of companies. And so there's absolutely no reason to wait. Apply for your PP1 or PP2 funding today. Next one. Here we go. For the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program, you can now get both a Ppp2 loan and the SVOG grant. You apply for the Ppp loan today, and then when you do the SVO grant, the Ppp2 loan will be deducted from the amount you get. The SVO, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, is much larger than the Ppp2 loan. So it's a great change. If you are a venue, apply for Ppp2. It'll allow you to get some cash flow going earlier than through the Shuttered Venue program. Next one. And some other changes as per the administration. The most important one is probably there's a different baseline for Schedule C filers. You file a Schedule C if you're a self-employed. You're a self-employed business owner, you're a contractor, you file a Schedule C. For the first draw PPP, you used line 31, which was your net profit. Now you can use line 7, which is your gross profit. And we'll talk about this more in the body of the slides. There are also different ways to calculate compensation for Schedule C, all of which should be beneficial to borrowers. The maximums is still the same, whether you use line 31 or line 7. If you're a Schedule C filer, the maximum is $20,833, except if you're in the NAISC code of 72, which means you're in the hospitality business, broadly defined, a restaurant, in which case you can get $29,167. The loan amounts are the same, but more people should be able to get larger Ppp2 loans now that you can use your gross profit rather than your net profit. Next one, Bree. Also, certain felony fraud exclusions have been eliminated. So in the past, if you had been convicted of a felony, you couldn't get an SBA loan, or it became much more difficult. For the Ppp2, as long as you don't have a fraud felony conviction, you should be all right. Some old student loan delinquency issues that have dogged people through the process have now been forgiven. And if you're a non-US citizen, you can apply using your individual taxpayer identification number for a Ppp2 loan. So those are all great changes. Next one. Idle payments. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, EIDL. So everything's been moved out a year. For those people who got payments, who got loans in 2020, your first payment is due in 2022. Interest will accrue at 3.75% for a for-profit or 2.75% for a nonprofit, but no payments will be required until probably about May or June of 2022. So it's not going to affect your cash flow for another year. Next one. The EIDL loan, as was mentioned before, has been expanded. So on April the 6th, the SBA began sending out emails to current EIDL loan holders. So, and the email asks you to confirm information about the loan. It asks for about 5 or 6 pieces of information, and it gives you an email address to respond back to. So if you do get a loan about expanding the EIDL, getting a larger EIDL loan, you should definitely fill out the information, send it off. The SBA will take 3 to 4 weeks to get back to you. So the maximum loan amount has been increased to $500,000 from $150,000, and the formula has been changed to allow for 6 months, from 6 months of expenses to 24 months of expenses. The SBA will allow a few weeks for the funding opportunity, but it's great because it's going to be the same rate and terms as the first round. It's a 30-year loan, 3.75% fixed interest rate with no prepayment penalty. Next one. The targeted idle advance, which was also mentioned, this is also an outbound email program from the SBA to people who got idle advances the first time around. So if you remember in 2020, when you applied for the idle loan, you could check a box on the application that said you wanted to be part of the idle advance. The idle advance, which became a grant, gave you $1,000 per employee, up to 10 employees, a maximum of $10,000. So if you got less than $10,000 for your idle advance back in 2020, the SBA is taking a look at all of the idle advance recipients, comparing them against their own database, and sending out outbound emails to folks. So this is an incremental grant and not a loan. So if you do get this email, take a look at it and see if you do qualify. And I'll explain it more in a little bit. Next one. Good. And as everyone knows, there's going to be more focused programs. The SVOG, the Shuttered Venue Operating Grant, went live on Thursday of last week. Unfortunately, they ran into some web problems, and so the program is had to shut down for a bit, but it'll reopen this week. There's $8 billion for rural medical providers, which hasn't come to fruition yet. And sometime, hopefully next week, the $25 billion restaurant program will come through. And if so, we'll obviously organize information around it. But it is in process and people are expecting it to go live sometime in the next week to 10 days. Next one. The California Relief Grant, which everyone should know we're not really part of directly, but rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are now closed. Final notifications for round 5 are going out through April the 16th, which is the end of this week. And if you're waitlisted, you'll automatically roll forward into round 6. Round 6, which is as of today, the last round for the California Relief Grant, will begin on April the 28th and end on May the 4th. Notifications will be sent out as of May the 7th, and you can apply for this 6th round if you aren't already in the system. Next one. And remember, to do this, you go to Lendistry. Lendistry is the group that's managing this program for the state of California. So in the slides, we have their 800 number, their email address. Lendistry is where you apply for round 6. And it's also the group that sends out all of the grant decisions and all of the notices about whether you're waitlisted or not. So contact Lendistry if you have any questions. Next one. The California Restaurant Grant Foundation Grant is not the big federal program. This opened on the 11th. It'll close on the 17th, but it's the Restaurant Care Resilience Fund provides cash grants for up to $3,500 and a year of consulting support to small restaurants in 8 counties in California. So if you're a restaurant, well, basically a small restaurant operation, Alameda, Fresno, Kern, Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Diego, San Francisco, or San Joaquin, go to the URL on the slide and you can apply. It's a great program. Next one. So Payroll Protection Program, second draw, PPP2. Remember, nothing's really changed since the changes that happened a while back. You can apply up until May 31st, 2021. If your application is in by May 31st, then you'll be live until June 30th for final funding, or when funds have been fully expended. When the funds are gone, the program's closed, so apply. Make sure you have your SBA application number from the first draw. For the second one, there's a $2 million maximum loan amount. For the second draw, it's 300 employees or less. For the first draw, it was 500 employees or less. And the key gating factor for most small businesses will be that they had a 25% reduction in gross receipts or revenue or sales. between comparable calendar quarters, 2020 versus 2019. You only have to have one quarter that was down by 25% or more to be eligible. So you want to look at your January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December quarters. If one of those quarters in 2020 had revenue down by 25% or more, then you're eligible for PPP2 and you should apply. Next one. If you previously received the first draw PPP loan, you will or will have used the full amount before you get the second funding. But again, even if you just got your first PPP loan, you were late to the game and you just got the first draw, it takes time for the second draw to get funded. So you should apply now. There's no reason you want to get into the system. Remember, it's only used for authorized funds. You have to have been in business as of February 15th, 2020. The application for the second draw is here, but all lenders will have them up on their websites. And for the second draw, a lot of different nonprofit organizations are eligible. Again, those will be clear when you go to your lender's website and look at the form. Next one. So the funding process, the borrower applies for the PPP2 loan at their lender. The lender reviews the application, gathers all the required documents, makes sure the borrower is eligible, and asks all of the underwriting questions for the SBA. And they really remain the face of the program to the borrower throughout the cycle. The lender approves the PPP2 application, sends it to the SBA. The SBA does a review. They have a software set up to look at numbers and et cetera. If everything passes, they'll assign a loan guarantee. If it's denied, then they send it back to the lender with why it was denied. The lender will then inform the borrower. If it's good, the lender generates legal forms. You do an online e-signing and it funds the loan and files what's called a 1502 form with the SBA. So the process works through the lender. The lender is going to be your primary contact through the process, not the SBA. Next one. The process can take 2 to 4 weeks, depending upon the lender, the SBA, whether there are any issues or not. But the SBA has been pretty good. They've been turning things around in 2 to 5 business days from when they receive them from the lender. So the likelihood is that if there is a delay, it's most likely at the lender and not at the SBA. But remember, the lender is going to be your point of contact with and for the PPP2 process. Each lender will be a little bit different in what they do and how they do it. Make sure you provide the lender with all the documents they need when they ask for them. And there's a bunch of documents. Next one. So PPP funding period's extended. It goes through May 31st. Some lenders had stopped taking new applications. Other lenders had stopped taking new applications for non-banking clients. Others had not made the updates to switch from line 7 to line 30, to line 7 from line 31 for self-employed people. But now that the program has been extended and reopened, the expectation is that all lenders will be back in the game and they'll make the required changes to the forms going forward. And so far, that seems to be the case. And there's really no reason to wait since the program, again, is going to close once funds are expended. Next one. Great. So some frequently asked questions. Should I apply for the PPP1 forgiveness now? And the answer is yes. Someone asked a question about their lender not being open, which is odd because the forgiveness process for the first draw has been in place and working really well. Why the lender wouldn't be up and running, I don't know, but you still have time. Should you apply for PPP2 with the same lender? The answer is, if you liked your PPP1 lender, the answer is yes, they already have your information. It should be quicker and easier with fewer forms to upload. Do you have to apply through the same one you used? And the answer is no. you can go to another lender, and there are lenders out there who are working with non-bank clients. That we can direct you to them if you send us a note. Can you apply to more than one lender for the second draw? The answer is yes, but only one lender is going to get the SBA guarantee number, and you may not know which one. So if you apply to 2 or 3 lenders, you may get rejected from lender 2, not because you've already gotten a guarantee number. So if you can, you want to work through one lender at a time. Can you get more than one Ppp2 loan? The answer is no. Do you need to have forgiveness for the first loan? The answer is no. You neither have to have applied for forgiveness nor receive forgiveness for the first PPP loan than when you get the second one. Some banks are asking you to do the forgiveness just to get the process underway at the same time you apply for the second draw, but it's not required. Next one. If you didn't get a PPP1 loan, can you get a PPP2 loan? Well, the answer is no, because you're a PPP1 client by definition. So if you never got a PPP loan, you're just applying for a PPP1, which is better for you because there's no 25% revenue decline required as a gating factor to get in the program. If you do get your first loan, you can apply for the second one as long as you're going to use the funds before the second loan is funded. Is the forgiveness any different? The answer is no. Someone asked a question about forgiveness for PPP2, and I would assume that that won't begin until the summer or the fall of this year because there's a 24-week use of funds period, and then you have 10 months after that to apply. So I would assume that the banks will work with the SBA and Treasury to let this process run out. And given that the program ends at the end of June, in terms of funding, 24 weeks puts you at the end of the calendar year. So in all likelihood, the forgiveness process for round 2 won't start until the fall. Should you call the SBA? And the answer is no. You work through your lender. The lender is the group you have to work through to make the process go. Getting funded, once the loan's been approved by the SBA and the bank has its guarantee number, you should hear from them relatively quickly. You sign the e-documents and you get funded. Some of my clients have been funded the same day they signed the e-documents. Others have taken another day or 2, but the process is pretty quick. Can you correct the application after it's submitted? And the answer is yes, but only until it's funded and that Form 1502 has been filed with the SBA. Once that form has been filed, it's closed. There's no changing it, and there's no increase in the loan. Remember, it's only one Ppp2 loan per employer identification number or social security number if you're a self-employed person. Once the Ppp2 loan is funded and recorded, it can't be changed, whatever the amount was. Next one. If you do have questions or problems, get help. Get help before you file the application. And if you haven't applied yet, why? There's nothing to wait for. Go do it. Next one. Forgiveness terms, remember, it's PPP2 and PPP1 are the same. The majority of the funds are spent on payroll and other eligible costs. So at least 60% of the proceeds are spent on payroll costs, and that's direct payroll expenses. If you're a self-employed person, it works differently than if you're a corporation. But if you're a corporation, it's your 940, 941 form. Payroll costs can be higher than 60%. They just can't be less than 60%. But you don't have to manage this so you hit 60% on the button. You can be 100% for payroll. The goal of PPP is to help you pay people. And so if you spend 100% of it on people costs, everyone's happy and you don't have to do anything else. Employee and compensation levels are maintained in the same manner as for the first draw. And then the good news here is that for any loans under $150,000, there's a simple one-page forgiveness form 3508S is the name of the form. And it's very simple to fill out, very few numbers, so it's gone very well. And the 60-40 split still applies to both new and second draw PPP2 loans, right? Next one. So forgiveness terms for the second draw, the business is committing to maintaining an average monthly number of full-time equivalent employees equal to or above the average number of full-time equivalent employees during the previous 1 year period. So you're really committing to maintaining your employment level. If you can't do that, the amount will be forgiven in proportion to the number of employees, if wages go down by more than 25%. But remember, when you're looking at forgiveness, there are things called safe harbor rules. And safe harbor comes from an old nautical term where ships were allowed to seek safe harbor from a storm in ports that they did not have landing rights with. And safe harbor terms were put in place by Congress about a year ago to protect companies from situations outside of their control. Next one. Great. So safe harbor rules, again, they're designed to help you in circumstances beyond your reasonable control. So if your FTEs, full-time equivalent employees, were reduced because you had a government order forcing you to close, that is a safe harbor rule, and that can help you increase your forgiveness. If you were unable to bring employees back in time, but brought them back by the end of the calendar year, that's another safe harbor. There are hourly and wage reduction exemptions if the industry you're in didn't have any choice but to lower wages, or if employees simply refuse to return to work at the same salary and for the same position. So there are these 4 major safe harbor protections that can help increase forgiveness. The forms and explanations are all available online. Your lender can help you, and we can help you at the SBDC. But it's very good news. So if things happened during the pandemic that you couldn't control, there are some helps. Next one. So how to calculate the loan for corporations. This has been gone over a lot, but remember, it's your aggregate payroll for the previous 12 months or from calendar year 2019. Since for PPP2, revenues have to have declined by at least 25% in one calendar quarter, most everybody will use 2019 numbers to get the larger PPP2 loan. And the calculation's now built into the application forms. So there's a calculator built in and it works very easily. And depending upon when you started your business, there are now multiple start and stop points for how you can figure out your payroll in the second draw versus the first draw. So again, these things have all been done to allow more companies into the program and to allow companies, borrowers, to get a larger PPP draw. Next one. Right. So if you're a sole proprietor, remember, for the first draw, you were using your net profit, line 31 on the Schedule C. Now you're going to use line 7 on your Schedule C. You'll want to pro forma, meaning, create your 2020 Schedule C and take a look at it. But you divide line 7, which is your gross profit, by 12. That gives you your average monthly compensation effectively to the owner. Multiply that by 2.5, and that's your PPP2 amount with a maximum of $20,833. PPP2 eligibility is again a function of revenue having declined by 25% or more. And therefore, almost all sole proprietors who qualify for PPP2 will use their 2019 Schedule C as the basis. It's just now you can use gross profit. Next one. So this is what it looks like. This is your Schedule C. Line 7 is what you want, either from your 2019 or your 2020, depending upon whichever year you started in. Next one. Right. So lenders are expecting to have the sole proprietor stuff up and running. Many do now. Check with your lender. If your lender is not planning to give you the benefit of line 7, then find a lender who is doing it and will work with non-bank clients, and there are about half dozen around. And run the PPP2 amount both ways to determine the impact on you, and obviously contact us if you need help. We're happy to help you. Next one. So the draw limitations, right? Remember, the maximum is of the second PPP2 loan is lesser of 2.5 times the monthly average payroll and healthcare costs in the prior year. If you're a code 72, hotels, casinos, food service, you can get 3.5 times the same number. So there's a 3.5 time multiple if you're a code 72, a 2.5 time multiple for everybody else with a $2 million loan amount. Next one. So allowable use of proceeds. Remember, payroll costs minimum 60%, no maximum. You can make payments of interest on mortgage obligations, but you can't pay the principal. You can do the interest. You can pay rent, but it has to be rent in the period. Utilities, broadly defined, and the other stuff. And then for eligible costs for payroll, it's salary, wages, commissions, similar normal compensation elements, payment of cash tips or equivalents, vacation, parental, family, and medical and sick leave are all included. If you had to dismiss or separate someone and pay them, that can be included. Normal group health benefits, including employer health insurance premiums, retirement benefits, state and local taxes for payroll. These are all included as eligible payroll costs when you look at it. And again, on your lender's website, there'll be a great calculator to do this. Next one. Thank you. Additional eligible expenses. If you had to buy software, cloud computing costs, other human resources and accounting needs, it was a very trying time. You needed to bring in some extra accounting support. These are all costs that are part of the 40% that's not payroll. If you had property damage, certain elements of property damage can be taken. Supplier costs, right? If you had to purchase or order goods that took effect for the loan and they're essential for your operation. If your employees all needed personal protective equipment and they didn't before, but now they do, you can include those in as well. And so the program is designed to help capture almost all the costs, but remember, you're borrowing 2.5 times your average monthly payroll, which is effectively about 10 weeks, but you have 24 weeks to use the funds. So most of the funds should really and can really be used by most borrowers for people costs. Next one, Bree. Additional updates. Remember the idle advance that you got back in 2020. It will not be reduced from your forgivable PPP amount. That's now built into the formula. Covered period is between 8 and 24 weeks. Most companies will use 24 weeks. Everyone has the option to use 24 weeks for both the first and the second draw. Group insurance, such as vision and dental, are also eligible expenses now. And yeah, next one. Good. For federal taxes as well as state taxes, forgiveness is not a taxable event. So for your federal return for 2021, 2020, and for California, it's capped at 150,000, but forgiveness will not affect your taxes. And you can also take the same items you used, the same expense items you used for on your forgiveness as part of your taxes. So it works really well. Gross business income will not include forgiveness of certain loans, your PPP forgiveness amounts, your idle grants, certain loan assistance payments, and grants for shuttered venues, which haven't happened yet. Next one. So keep your documents, keep your payroll and related costs, keep everything for about 4 years. You can find your applications at sba.gov. but also they'll be on your lender's website. So remember, when you do forgiveness, you file your forgiveness with your lender. Your lender then approves your forgiveness form and forwards it on to the SBA. The SBA then approves the forgiveness itself, sends it back to the lender, and eventually you'll get an email from your lender saying, congratulations, your PPP1 has been forgiven. That process takes a while. Next one. Thanks. So PPP versus EIDL. PPP is forgivable. If it's not forgiven, there's a 1% fixed interest rate. It'll become a 5-year term loan. Use of funds, payroll costs, mortgage interest, rent, utilities. You apply through the SBA approved lenders, and there's no collateral required. EIDL is not forgivable. It's 3.75% interest if you're a for-profit, and a 2.75% interest for a nonprofit. It's a 30-year term to the loan. Interest is fixed, and you can use the funds for working capital, inventory, certain debt payments, normal business expenditures. But for EIDL, you apply directly through the SBA at www.sba.gov. If loans are over $25,000, they're secured by a UCC filing, but actually that's been changed now as well. Under the new EIDL program, the limits, the minimums for any kind of security have all been raised, where most EIDL loans won't have them. Next one. So things to remember, try not to get too lost in or about the Ppp program. Ppp was designed to help thousands, millions of companies, sole proprietors and contractors across the country maintain their employment, and if they're a sole proprietor, maintain their income. And it makes the most sense when you think about it in that context. Keep all your documents for 4 years. Forgiveness for PP1 is open and working well. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head anymore, but the number of loans that have been fully forgiven, are exceedingly high. And your lender is your point of contact for both the loan and the forgiveness process. Next one, Bree. Most PPP borrowers will receive significant forgiveness. 24-week use of funds period versus the 10 weeks of funding allow a lot of time to use the funds for what they were designed to do, and that is payroll. Sole proprietors, contractors, self-employed people should really be able to get 100% forgiveness just by using the funds for payroll. The EIDL advance is a grant, not deducted from forgiveness. Unforgiven portion of a PPP loan becomes a term loan at 1%. PPP is not personally guaranteed so long as it's used for your intended purpose. If you took the PPP money and you went to Vegas for the weekend, then it becomes a personally guaranteed loan. But if you tried to use it as it was designed, it's not guaranteed. And if you need to find a new lender who has all the who has all the up-to-date materials, and let us know, and we're happy to help you. Next one. So remember, it's been extended. The program's been extended to the end of May. As long as you apply and are in the system by May 31, you have another month to be funded, June 30th. But there's an expectation the funds are going to expire before that, so apply before there's no money left in the program. There's still time to find a lender who's open for non-clients. PPP, as Carrie mentioned earlier, it's just been a world-class program which has helped millions of companies make it through the worst period in our history since the early 1920s. So don't miss out. Next one. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Sunita to talk about the other CARES programs.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I was in the zone answering questions. Lots and lots of questions coming out there. But I do want to, before we move forward, Fredo, I'm not sure if you can answer this question or not. This is directed to Case. According to my CPA, California hasn't quite passed the state law to match the federal government tax exemption for forgiven PPP expenses. Is that correct? Do I need to pay California taxes on my PPP utilities and our payroll expenses? Are you able to answer that one?
I don't actually know the answer, but I
Okay.
can try to Google it and see if I can find out.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see here. Okay, we will go on to the other additional programs. Next, please. So we're going to go over the EIDL appeal process, targeted EIDL advance. There's been a lot of questions in regards to that. SBA debt relief, the SVOG, and the ERC. Next, please. So for the EIDL program, that is now open again. So if you have not applied before, please apply now. If you have already applied and you need to be reconsidered, please do not apply again, because that'll just hold up the process. So I will go over the reconsideration process next. But new funding has been provided, only one EIDL loan per EIN or social security number. You can apply for EIDL application at sba.gov, but here's also a link. Application is extended through December 31st, 2021. The new applications, the turnaround is quick because there's not that many new applications. The reconsideration process, unfortunately, is taking some time. Next, please. So SBA has also raised the amount that you can get for your EIDL loan. It used to be 150,000, and now the max is 500,000. So up to 24 months of economic injury with a maximum loan amount of 500,000. Businesses that received a loan subject to the previous limits do not need to submit a request for an increase at this time. SBA will reach out to you directly via email. So please look out for the sba.gov email. Look in your spam. You can look in, all these different areas. So in the mornings and maybe in the evenings, that's probably when you should look for these emails to see if you've already been invited to increase your loan amount. SBA will reach out to you via email and provide more details to you about how businesses can request an increase. Any new loan applications and any loans in process when the new loan limits are implemented would automatically be considered for the 24-month, the 500,000 max loan amount. Next, please. So the EIDL appeal process, you have up to 6 months to get reconsidered on declined loans or loan increases. Now, if it's been longer than 6 months, please note that you will have to write a letter stating why it took more than 6 months. Maybe your business didn't open up. You weren't sure if your business was going to open up, and your business is now going to open up. That is definitely a valid reason. There are other reasons as well, but please put that in your email to reconsideration, because they are going to want to know why it took more than 6 months for you to request a reconsideration. So if you applied for EIDL and were denied, do not reapply. You'll have to go through this reconsideration process. Go through the separate dedicated appeal process at pdcrecons@sba.gov. A second application will be flagged as a duplicate and slow down the process. Appeal process is working. I know it's taking time. It is taking sometimes months, unfortunately, sometimes weeks, but there are people that are getting funded. SBA's team will let you know what documents are needed, and we also have a list of those documents. You'll need for sure the 4506T document. You'll need the correct 4506T document, and that document can be found at sba.gov. Also, the links and everything, we do have a Google folder that Bree is going to put in the chat if she hasn't already. That has all the different forms for the SVOG, for the PPP, for the EIDL, all of these. We don't have a link to the 4506T because that could change. And I want you to make sure everybody gets the most up-to-date document. So please go to sba.gov for the 4506T that is appropriate. It is an older version, a 2019 version, so please use that one. Let's see here. Next, please. Targeted EIDL advance. We're getting a lot of questions in regards to this. The SBA will reach out to you and request additional information to make sure that you are qualified for the targeted advance. I know that a lot of people are saying that they're sending out this information to everybody. without checking to make sure that they are in the low income community. And it might be, and I don't know the exact answer, and I'm sorry that SBA is not here right now, and I don't know if they would know the answer to this. Maybe they're just trying to get it out to everybody, and it would just take more time for them to review or to put that information into the map. So if you are not in a low income community, but you still service low income communities, you would not qualify. The business has to be in a low income community, suffered greater than 30% economic loss, and has fewer than 300 or fewer employees. Those who applied for the EIDL advance but did not receive funds due to the lack of funding will receive a full $10,000 if they meet same requirements above and are per targeted EIDL advance funding availability. Next, please. Items that you're going to need to be able to submit to the targeted EIDL advance people: 2019 federal tax returns, EIN, SSN number as specified on the original EIDL application. So a lot of people are also asking me, can I use my social security number, but I use my EIN, I use my EIN, can I use my social security? Everything has to match. Or I moved into a low income community now from previously. Unfortunately not. It's going to have to go off of your 2019 federal tax returns and what your initial application was. Anything that gets changed, it would not, it would end up not being qualified. If you were initially not in the targeted area, unfortunately, if you did move within this last year, you would still not qualify. It has to go with the original application. As far as I know, if that changes, we'll also let you know. Monthly gross receipts for 2019, 2020, and completed months in 2021. Confirm information in the original EIDL application is still accurate. Changes may require a manual review and documentation. I know that people are stating that they have not heard back. There needs to be some corrections done, and that could also take many weeks. We don't know how long it takes. Nobody has told us exactly how much time it takes to do the various changes. Applicants that pass the initial eligibility requirements will be required to sign a 4506T, which I had stated previously, for the SBA to be able to obtain their tax returns. So please make sure that you are using the correct form, the form that they're providing you, not the one from the IRS, but actually the one that's being provided to you via the email from the SBA. Next, please. So SBA debt relief. All borrowers with qualifying loans approved by the SBA prior to March 27, 2020 will receive an additional 2 months of principal and interest payments, which started back in February. So February, March, April. So that probably is up by now for many of you that started or that had a loan approved back in March of 2020. Underserved borrowers, namely the smallest and hardest hit, will receive an additional 3 months, so a total of 5. Community Advantage loans and microloans approved by SBA prior to the March 27th, 2020 will receive 5 months of principal and interest payments. SBA payments of principal and interest on the first 3 months of newly approved loans will resume for all loans approved from February 1st through September 30th, 2020. The cap for all of these is $9,000, and it is all subject to availability of funds. Next, please. Loan enhancement. SBA waives the SBA lender fees and also for the fees for the borrower, the SBA fees. So there was a question, I know that when Carrie was on here earlier, she was stating that a 7A loan can be used for startups, and they can, but it does not have to be funded by the end of the year. If you would like the fees to be waived, yes, you should start on that process now, also with the 7A and the 504 to get the fees waived and also to get the guarantee increase from 90 to 75% for the lender. Some bank fees may still apply. So I think that's where the confusion came in. So I hope this answer, what I've just went through, is clearing it up a little bit more. Next, please. The SVOG, it is still not open as of right now. They did state before they open it up again, they would let everybody know. If you do not receive our newsletters, you should, because this information will be on our newsletters. As soon as we get the information, we send it out and our marketing team sends it to everybody that's on the list of our newsletters. Bree is going to put how to sign up for our newsletters in the chat, and I would really ask for all of you to do that right away. So that way you get the information right away. But what you can still do, even though you can't upload any documents into the system, is you could still go onto the portal and you can create your username and such. So you can get all that information into the portal now. You can also apply at sam.gov, which you will need to be able to get funded. So please know that go to sam.gov. The instructions are here. Instructions are also in the Google Drive folder, in the Google folder. So that way you know exactly what it is that you need to do. It is taking weeks. You need to have documentation that you have applied because they do understand that this is taking longer to get done. So apply, I say apply now because I honestly didn't know. I was hoping that it was going to open up while we're talking, but that is not the case. But these are some things that you can get together. This is some information on who can apply and when. So promoters are live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts operators, museum operators, motion picture operators, and talent representatives who demonstrate a revenue reduction can apply. And how they're going to fund this is in the first 14 days of the program, which of course is being backed up now, grants will be awarded to venues with a 90% revenue loss. Then after that, the next 14 days will be a 70% revenue loss. And after 28 days, grants will be awarded to venues with less than the 70% revenue loss. So this is how they are structuring how people are going to get the money and how the money is going to go out. You do not have to wait once the portal is open for your application to apply in this this tiered way. You can apply right away and they will go ahead and look at your application and then put you into the different slots of when you could be funded. So once the portal opens up again, I would just review what's needed. I wouldn't necessarily say to go ahead and jump on and apply right away because the system may have some issues. You might want to give it a day and then the next day try and use the system. Just from what we've seen, I believe it's just so much information all at once just crashes these systems. I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but I think that is what happened. Next, please. So the SVOG, this grant is going to be administered by the SBA Office of Disaster. The grant amount is, in general, will be about 45% of gross earned revenue if in operation January 1st, 2019. If the venue was in operation after the January 1st, 2019, you calculate the average monthly gross revenue for each full month in operation during 2019 and multiply that by 6. Applicants must have been in operation on February 29th, 2020. If you were not in operation on February 29th, 2020, then unfortunately you would not qualify for this and must not have received a PPP loan on or after December 27, 2020. I am sorry, that information is not correct. You can receive PPP funds after. So I will update this. Sorry for the confusion. You can receive PPP funds after. You can receive PPP funds after, but it will be minused out from your total SVOG loan. You can apply if you received an EIDL loan and or PPP loan in 2020 and 2021. The SVOG can be used for specific expenses such as payroll, rent, utilities, and some other costs to be determined. That has not been given out yet. As soon as it does, we'll give you that information. The SBA will publicize the opening of the portal for applications in advance, so they will let us know. Next, please. The SVOG continued. I just went over this again, but here are the entities that are eligible. I wanted to make sure that everybody read this and can see this because there's a lot of confusion in regards to if you are a lighting company that helps with these live venues, you would unfortunately not be considered for this. Or if you were a put on weddings or, you know, at these places, unfortunately, you would not be considered either. So it's live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organizations, operators, relevant museum operators, zoos, aquariums who meet specific criteria. And all of that criteria and all this information, we went through this extensively at our last SVOG meeting, and I believe that was last Wednesday. And Bree can put the link on that. It is in our library and you can watch that again. So if you need more specifics on that. And also all this information is located on the SBA.gov website. Motion picture theater operators, talent representatives, and each business entity owned by an eligible entity that also meets the eligibility requirements. Next, please. Employee retention credit. I'm going to give a brief overview of this. We did go into some extent at our last webinar. It was not presented by me. It was presented by Joan Yamauchi, who is definitely more qualified than I am on this respect here, but I will go over some quick information for you. Next, please. What is the ERC? It's a refundable payroll tax credit that is offset against certain employment payroll taxes. Rules for qualification and tax credits amounts are slightly different in 2020 and 2021. So be very careful with this. Which businesses qualify? Employers that operated during the calendar year in 2020 and experienced either full or partial suspension of the business operating during Q2, 3, 4 of 2020. And or Q1, 2 of 2021 because of government orders limiting commerce, travel, or group meetings due to COVID. Or in 2020, quarterly gross receipts less than 50% of the gross receipts in the same calendar quarter in 2019. Or in 2021, quarterly gross receipts less than 80% of the gross receipts in the same calendar quarter in 2019. So let's see here. Employers not operating in 2019 may use the same calendar quarter in 2020 or the immediately preceding calendar quarter to measure the gross receipt decline. Employers may qualify for the ERC even if they received a first and second draw PPP loan. Self-employed income Schedule C does not qualify for an ERC. Next, please. These are our upcoming webinars. We have another disaster loan update on the 28th. I don't have on the 21st, this is tentative, but the restaurant fund, we are hoping the one that the grant, the SBA restaurant grant that is going to be coming out, we're hoping to have information by next Wednesday, so that way we can provide that to you. We will send out a newsletter for an invitation to register for it if that ends up happening. But tentatively, we have that scheduled for next Wednesday, the 21st from 10:30 until 12. We have another webinar on the 27th, Economic Development Webinar featuring the City of Brentwood, owning and investing in real estate for our small business and entrepreneurs. And that is given by our own Stephen Roth. And if you want to see any of our older videos that have happened, such as the SVOG, please watch that one. That goes into great detail. You can get all of those videos at learn.norcalsbdc.org. And then if you wanted to see our calendar of events, not only for the Finance Center, but also for our network, you can go to sbdc.events/network calendar. Next, please. And again, our attorneys today here with us at Case Force are Fredo Silva, partner at Morrison & Forster, and then Elise Hicks, attorney at United Policies, and she can go over some insurance questions. And I'm not sure if you guys had any updates that you would like to provide to us today, and if you don't, that's fine. I just want to give you a chance to give us any info if you have it.
I don't have any updates, but I just wanted to make sure that put in a plug for folks that are looking for services and help We can't provide legal advice or a attorney-client relationship right now on this call, and can just sort of provide, answers that are generally applicable. But if you do need specific legal counsel on a specific matter, I would just recommend that folks go to the Legal Services for Entrepreneurs site at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the San Francisco Bay Area. It's LCCR. SF.org, and their program is, again, the initials are LSE for Legal Services for Entrepreneurs. They tend to be a good resource. There's also similar resources at startsmallthinkbig.org that help connect legal service to the small business community. And then as far as what programs are available and what new things have been happening under the individual counties in California, or the state of California, or the federal, or what have you, there is a huge resource that our firm helps put together at the CASE task force website. It's case.law.berkeley.edu. And there's a whole resource guide that you can sort of sort by your location and by type to try to see sort of what some of the big news is and what's going on. And so if folks have questions, I'm happy to try to answer. I'm a corporate lawyer, not a tax lawyer, and not an employment lawyer, so I'm probably the least useful person here. But feel free to put in some questions, and I'll try to answer them if I can.
Thank you, Fredo. We really appreciate you being here.
Similarly, I don't have any updates to share, but there is an ongoing, I would say, fight for a lot of businesses, especially in the restaurant industry, who are submitting lawsuits for BI coverage or business interruption coverage for their insurers. They're not paying based on COVID. So if you guys fall into that category or just have general questions about your insurance, you can always email info@uphelp.org or Elise, ELYSE@uphelp.org. Or you could put your questions in the Q&A, and I'll be more than happy to answer those for you as well.
Thank you very much, Elise. Appreciate that. And then people are asking for information in regards to our previous webinars, and that information is going to be in the chat. You can go to our library and sign up there, and then you can watch that video again, especially for the ERC and for the SVOG. Let's see here on your ERC questions. Unfortunately, if you can gather Allison, all of your ERC questions and send them over to loans@AskSBDC. Hopefully you are a client already, and if you are not, we would ask that you sign up for services so that way we can walk you through this. Unfortunately, I can't answer these questions for you at this time. So if you can reach out to us via loans@AskSBDC, that would be wonderful. Let's see here. And Kamlesh, we are putting that information. Can you please repeat or write down a web chat where you send inquiries about business interruption questions? Elise is typing that out for you. So thank you so much, Elise. Corey Irving, did they refer me to this meeting? I'm assuming your advisor referred you to this meeting. So sorry, I'm not sure what the question is. I think Steve maybe have tried to answer that. Some questions we can and cannot answer here. Some questions are very much directed just to you personally. We may need additional information to be able to answer it correctly. So if I do say in the answers to please reach out to us, to your advisor or to us if you're not a client yet, because we need more information from you to be able to answer the questions correctly. Some of these questions we've never seen before, honestly, as well. There's new ones all the time. And the video is going to be available later today. And you can also get a copy of it if you please complete the survey. We're asking that everyone complete the surveys because we want to make sure that we're giving you the information that you need. We want to see how we're doing as well. So please, if you can answer the survey, that would really help us out a lot. So we appreciate you all being here today. Any more questions before we head out today? let's see here. Linda is, Lynn, I think Steve is answering that question, Linda. Claire, please let me know how I can download the chat. Thanks. I will let Bree handle that. I don't know if you can download the chat. You may need to copy it into a document if you need some of that information.
I would recommend that you just reach out to me and I can send you whatever you need.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bree. Appreciate that. If you have another question, who can you call? Luis, you would call your advisor. If you don't have an advisor yet, please sign up for services. If you need assistance on that, you can just reach out to us at loans@ASKSBDC and we can send you a link if you did not get it within the chat. Sometimes it's difficult to answer these questions. As I said before, the questions are very long and very specific. We only have a certain amount of time to review it. It's best to get one-on-one services with an advisor so that way they can walk you through all of it and they have a little bit more time than we do during these webinars where we're trying to answer questions really quickly. Claire, you're very welcome. Thank you all for attending today. Tulu, we can send you the link. It's also here. You can go to norcalsbdc.org and find the closest service center to you. And then Bree is providing all that information to everyone that wants to sign up for services with us. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. We're here to help you as best as we can. You're very welcome, everybody, for this. We are here the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of the month to provide you with all of the COVID updates that we have. We'll also sprinkle in there any other information that we have on other Wednesdays, such as the SVOG, or hopefully next week, the restaurant grant will be open from SBA, or we will have additional information that we can provide you. We are waiting for that too. If you are in the counties in California that can get the funding for the California Restaurant Fund, I would suggest going onto that website today and review there is a video on who can apply, how to apply, all of that. They've done a great job with that. So please go there if you have time today or this evening. Please go over there and see if you would be able to qualify for that. All of that information is in the chat. And then you can also look in a search engine for California Restaurant Fund, and they should be able to get you that information. Kamlesh is asking, I am asking questions on behalf of my business colleague. She is needing help with the EDD pandemic employment. Do you have anyone on your team to assist? We do not at our finance center, but we do, the centers, your local centers should have somebody that is going to be able to help you, Kamlesh, if you ask your colleague to sign up for that, because I'm not really sure what your specific questions are. I do know that you can't spend you can't spend your PPP or EIDL money or any other grant on the same thing as you use your EDD money for. That I do know, but I'm not sure what the specific questions are for the EDD pandemic. You are welcome. It's 11:47. Does anybody else have any questions before we head out today? Okay, perfect. We thank you so much for your time. Fredo Silva, Elise Hicks, thank you so much. Steve Roth, Brianna Palmer, Sandra, and everyone else on the team. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for being here. We'll see you next week or the week after. Take care, everybody.